What a day, folks. What a day. Friday brings us lots of news and lots of rumors, and we are going to talk about it all right now. Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And we're just going to kind of go in order here. Lots of news, lots of rumors, lots to get to. So let's talk about it. We see this first announcement from the Devils earlier today. King Jack, Devils center Jack Hughes was nominated to be the team's representative for the King Clancy Award for the third year in a row. Among his many accolades in the community include the Hughes brothers Pucks and Pages initiative, work with Hockey New Jersey, and much more, referring to Jack's kind of community outreach and community service type programs. For those that don't know, the King Clancy Trophy is presented to the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities on and off the ice and has made a noteworthy humanitarian contribution in his community. So Jack is the Devils nominee. Congratulations to Jack on that. And then we get to the next section here, total recall. The Devils announced in the morning that goaltender Nico Daws, it doesn't even say it there, Nico Daws and defenseman Topias Vilen were recalled from Utica of the American Hockey League and will join the team for practice today. And people were like, what's that about? Well, they give us a little more info, and I'm going to get into another page about this. Devils goaltender Jacob Markstrom was absent from the practice session, while forward Jesper Bratt only did a bit of work at the beginning of practice. Head coach Sheldon Keefe provided the following updates on Markstrom. He's had some nagging injuries, nothing that's prevented him from being out here, but we just decided to give him the circumstances to shut him down for the season. It gives him a chance to go into the offseason without doing any further damage and can get going on his offseason. And then on Bratt, it was planned in advance. He was going to go out and get a little work on his own. We don't suspect it to be any sort of issue. He should be full go tomorrow. Wow. Jacob Markstrom, a lot of people super down on him. I get it. Rough season for Markey. You guys know I am a Markey guy, but, you got to call it like it is. The stats are not great. And perhaps, and this is not to make an excuse, but perhaps he has been playing through some sort of injury all season long. Obviously, he had the injury last year. He had one this year. Not a great scenario given, where the Devils are and how much they need solid goaltending play for next season. My only hope, and a lot of you are going to rip me for this, and it's fine. I don't really care. The hope, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the hope is that Jacob Markstrom, I guess at this point, I'm going to say, we hope that part of it was injury and that next season he bounces back. Now, I understand the apprehension and the, doubters and all of those things. And I understand it is not the likely scenario to happen, but there is a world, albeit maybe a small chance, but there is a world that Markey looks much better next season and looks much more like the guy we saw in the playoffs last year against Carolina. Pretty solid performance, I would say, for Markey. I think the series could have been much uglier if it was not for Markey in net. And the only thing we could hope for is that if he does, in fact, return next season, which at the moment we have to believe that he will. Now, obviously, lots of things in the background with the new GM and such that could result in him not being here. But for the moment, it seems like he will be here. And all we could do is hope that Markey looks like a much better goaltender next season. And I do think if he is here, he will play better than he did this year. I mean, it was a rough year. And now with this, him getting shut down, it's certainly possible that he's been playing through something. And that opens up a whole bunch of other conversations. People are like, oh, wow, is he playing hurt? I mean, I think people need to realize that playing through injury is a big part of the National Hockey League, folks. People are playing through injuries constantly, and this may have been the situation. Hopefully, we see a better Markey next season. And then we get to the kind of next level of this. Topias Vilen recalled from AHL. This is from the Devils PR this morning. The Devils have recalled goaltender Nico Daws and defenseman Topias Vilen from Utica of the American Hockey League. Daws, 25, has appeared in one game for the Devils this season, stopping 31 of 32 shots in a victory against Minnesota on October 22nd. He's appeared in 53 career NHL games, going 23, 23, and 1 with a 2.94 goals against average and an 899 save percentage. Daws, the club's third round pick, 84th overall in the 2020 NHL draft, is 15, 6, and 8 with a 284 goals against and 891 save percentage with Utica this season. Vilen, 23 years old, has 4 goals and 24 points in 59 games with the Comets, who've had a rough year, obviously. He's played the past 3 full seasons with Utica, totaling 7 goals and 77 points in 171 contests. The left shot defenseman was the Devils' 5th round pick, 129th overall in the 2021 NHL draft. And so you look at this and you say, okay, well, we'll start with Topias Vilen. Left D will be making his NHL debut tomorrow. Very excited to see that. And he's been in the organization for some time now. And you see most recently 59 games this year with Utica, 4 goals, 20 assists, 24 points. Left-handed shot, 6'1", 194. What is this man going to bring to the blue line? I do think amongst the many question marks, I mean, at this point, everything's a question mark, right? We don't have a GM. We don't have a president. I expect both of those will be named soon. But when you're looking at the D, in my opinion, there is a lot of pieces that could potentially be moved out. And I think the Devils are trying to get, and then maybe they should have considered this sooner, but we just officially got eliminated recently. What they have here in Topias Vilen, is he potentially a guy that they think may be ready to take the next step next season? Like we've talked about with a lot of the veteran defensemen we have currently with the Dougie Hamilton, Nemo uncertainty, the defensive core could look pretty different next year. I don't know that they're going to, rebuild the entire thing in an offseason, but I certainly think it's possible that maybe 2 or 3 guys who are here today will not be here for next season. This is all things for the new GM to figure out, and we'll see how it goes. But I think they want to give this kid a look, see if they think he has what it takes. I believe he played in some preseason games, and maybe he gives them the nudge to potentially move on from one of the veteran defensemen that we currently have. Maybe if he looks good, they say, you know what, we could bring this guy up and move on from somebody else, free up some salary cap to work on all the other projects that this team is going to have to worry about this offseason. And there's no shortage of them. There's a ton of them. So we'll be interesting to see him make his NHL debut. Good luck to him. Hopefully he looks good, and hopefully, he poses or gives the incoming GM some more questions to think about in terms of the personnel on the blue line heading into next season. And then we look at Nico Daws. Only played that one game this year. Obviously, it was that great game he had against the Wild. I'm going to pull up the stats off that in a minute. But only gave up 1 goal, 968 save percentage, and then his numbers with Utica, obviously not great because Utica has been struggling in 42 games. He has a 284 goals against, an 891 save percentage, and his record is 15, 16, and 11. And I know a lot of people are going to look at that and go, oh, his numbers are terrible and blah, blah, blah. And like I've said many times before, I'm not personally going to put that much stock into AHL numbers. Obviously, it's something to look at, but when you're talking about a minor league team, and especially one that has been struggling, a lot of people quickly go, oh, his numbers suck, like, blah, blah, blah. But it's doesn't tell the whole story. The team has been struggling, probably not getting the best defensive play in front of him. And a couple of years ago, I believe his numbers in Utica weren't great. And in a small sample size, he looked very good for the Devils, obviously playing behind a better structure and a more defensively responsible team. And he did well. So I am not going to put too much stock into that. Obviously something to consider, but we've seen him in the NHL the past few years in small sample sizes. And I like what we've seen from Nico Daws. And many of you have pointed out online, or I think it was someone said it to me on X, they became a Nico Daws fan when he won that Stadium Series game. And I would say, given the gravity of that game, probably his Devils highlight, obviously in a very limited time, but he looked great in that game against the Flyers at the MetLife Stadium. Many of you were there. Shout out to those that were in attendance. What a phenomenal night that was. But Nico Daws, I've talked about him, and many of you have for a while. Is he going to be in the mix? He's an RFA this coming off season. What are the Devils' plans for him in the future? Obviously, he's probably a little bit frustrated that his path to the NHL has been blocked with Markey and Allen, signed here. But Nico Daws, the young 25-year-old, 6'4", 205, like the size, and there it is. The one game played against the Wild this year was during the 8-game heater. That was amidst the 8-game heater for Nico Daws. Also during my brief media career, which coincided. 1 win, 1 goals against of 1.00, 968 save percentage. And you look at his time last season, 24-25 with the Devils. He played 6 games, started 4. He was 3-1. I think that's a good record, right? We'll say 3-1's a pretty damn good record. Goals against of 1.6, a save percentage of 939, and a shutout to go with it. Again, very small sample size, but 1.6 goals against and a 939 is absolutely incredible. For those that might not be aware, those are phenomenal stats. And I'm not going to say he's going to keep that up for a whole season because that would give him the Vezina as goalie of the year in a runaway. But liked what we saw and do not think he got or has gotten a fair crack thus far, with the organization. But, the way things played out, I don't think anyone saw Jake Allen signing that super team-friendly deal. Pretty insane, $1.8 million. So there was nothing you could do about that. And then his path was kind of blocked to the NHL. And so there you have it. Nico Daws here. I think he will probably start 2. I think they said he is going to start tomorrow. And I'd imagine he's going to start at least 2 of the 3. There's a back-to-back. So, he'll probably start 2 of the 3 games. We'll get a look at Nico Daws. Haven't seen him since October in the NHL. And hopefully he shows us something, gives us something to believe in. Put his name in the mix for next season. Again, the goaltending is going to be very interesting. And then we get to front office. And there's tons of smoke around this one. Multiple NHL sources have confirmed to R.org that Brendan Shanahan is indeed the leading candidate to become the next president of hockey operations for the New Jersey Devils. In fact, late Thursday night, one source went as far as saying Shanahan could assume the role for the Devils by Monday. Yes, the source replied when asked if a Shanahan hiring in New Jersey was imminent. Another source told R.org that Shanahan was the leading candidate for the president of hockey operations job at the Devils immediately after they fired Tom Fitzgerald, who held that role and the general manager role since replacing the late Ray Shero late in the 2019-2020 season. This is the job he's really been eyeing for a while, and the Devils have been eyeing him, the source told R.org. On a recent edition of the Eye Test podcast, longtime NHL analyst Pierre McGuire also indicated that all signs were pointing towards Shanahan. And there you have it, folks. I mean, I am a believer in the old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire. And it seems like with each passing day, this hiring is becoming more and more likely. For all we know, it could already be done, and they're waiting to announce it. But Shanny, a guy that I have talked about forever, listen, and a lot of people are down on, everyone just wants former players, but it's not just being a former player and a Hall of Famer and a legend at that, but he has a wealth of experience in the game from being a player. And then obviously at the top in Toronto. Now, it did not go well there in Toronto, obviously, but again, no one is a winner until they've won. I mean, everyone wins for the first time at some point. I am personally not going to condemn a guy like Shanny because of the shortcomings of Toronto. That's a whole kind of topic for another day, but I do believe the franchise is cursed. And shout out to Statboy John, I believe, put in the chat in the past couple days. I forget which one. These all kind of bleed together. But I think he put the stat forward that since the Maple Leafs last won the Cup in 1967, they are 2-12 in Game 7s. I mean, they do seem to be a bit of a cursed franchise, in my opinion. But either way, Shanny was there, has the experience. The man has seen and done everything there is in hockey, both in the NHL and at the international level with some of these legendary World Cup teams and Olympic teams. And if you just look at some of the guys he's played with, phenomenal stuff. But I don't see as many people complaining about this hiring as much as the next one we're going to get to. But it does seem like, by all accounts, Brendan Shanahan will be the next president of our beloved New Jersey Devils. And I, for one, am ecstatic with that choice. I hope that it does in fact happen, and we proceed into this new era of New Jersey Devil hockey with Shanny as the president. I certainly will be thrilled. I know many of you will as well. Again, a guy we've talked about for a while. All these reports have been surfacing since Fitz was let go. And now the latest report seems that it's, pretty much imminent and it's going to happen. So I will be pumped for that. Curious to hear what other people think about that, but it seems to be the only guy really kind of rumored in the rumor mill about that president vacancy. So it seems like Shanny's going to be the guy, which brings us to the next hiring. And this is the one I've been kind of battling people with online all day. And before I even get into what we're going to say here, like, people act as if there's a concrete right or wrong answer. This is my opinion, and people have their opinions. You're entitled to your opinion. There is no right. There's not a math problem. There is no right or wrong answer. And you never know how a guy is going to perform until they have the job. I understand people want to cite, past accolades and all this stuff. And that's all good and well. But we get to the next vacancy with our beloved New Jersey Devils, and that is the general manager job. And folks, on 32 Thoughts today, Elliot Friedman, the most plugged-in insider in the National Hockey League today, was talking about, obviously, Sonny Mehta, the guy we've all been talking about for the past couple of days, a guy that many of our fans seem to be in love with. And I get it. I understand the allure. He's a Jersey guy. He worked here in the past. He's completely analytics driven, which many people, want to see that. And then obviously the biggest kind of feather in the cap would be the fact that he was the assistant general manager of the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. And I get all of it. And I will be the first to say, I do think Sonny Mehta could be, because again, with any of these guys, you never know what you're getting. There is an element of gambling or risk-taking with any hire you make, period, for any position. Past success is not necessarily an indication of future success. Obviously, with some things, you want to get a guy that has some success, and you hope that it means potential success for you in the future, but there is no guarantee. But 2 Stanley Cups, Sonny Mehta, Jersey guy. I get all the analytics. People are obsessed, and I get all of it. And I think he could be a good hire for this team. I think he could be. I'm not going to sit here and smack talk the guy. I think he could be a good hire. But I have a lot of questions personally about him. It seems as though he doesn't have much experience outside of the analytics world. And that was something that Elliot Friedman brought up, maybe not in directly relation to the Sonny Mehta conversation, but just in terms of hockey executives in general. If you check out the 32 Thoughts, you definitely should listen to it later if you haven't. But he talked about how a lot of these jobs are going to go to more what he called well-rounded candidates, meaning guys that have experience in more than one thing. And as far as I know, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, potentially, Sonny Mehta is kind of in that lane, and some of these jobs are going to go to guys that have a little bit of a more well-rounded background. And I would say the next guy that I'm going to talk about, and again, in closing, I'm not anti-Sonny Mehta whatsoever. If he does get the job, I would be happy for him and hope that he brings us where we need to go, because this team needs a lot of help. So I'm not discrediting him as a candidate whatsoever. I'm just going to say that there is a guy whose name also came up, been floating out there, not nearly as loud as the Shanny rumors, but this guy's name was floating around a little bit, and then Elliot brought him up today. And once Elliot brought him up, folks, I got very excited, because when Elliot says something, there is really something there. And that man's name for the potential general manager job for the New Jersey Devils, none other than 2-time Stanley Cup champion and Captain America, Jamie Langenbrunner. And oh, baby, that clearly, for those that know me, clearly would be my personal number one choice over Sonny Mehta. I'm sorry. Again, many people disagree with me. The analytics worshipers certainly did not like this and have been kind of making their little comments about it all day. But a guy like Jamie Langenbrunner, he's been with Boston the past 11 years. He was in player development, climbed the ladder. He's now the assistant GM there. And Elliot Friedman brought him up and said that he potentially could be the guy the Devils go to. And he believes that with the great Martin Brodeur kind of currently acting as the general manager of the Devils, and helping the owners with this search. He believes that Marty would push for Jamie as the guy. Oh, man, I want to see it so bad. And some of the people's tears about it afterwards would be phenomenal as well, because there's so many people that are just hating and, the former players and the good old boys club and blah, blah. We need to move away from this. I'm sorry, guys. I know a lot of you are down and beaten from the Fitz era, but you cannot compare Fitz to these guys. I'm sorry. He does not know anything about winning. The guy's never won. These guys are winners at every level. Jamie Langenbrunner won a Stanley Cup with 2 different teams and has been on plenty of teams that were championship caliber that may not have gotten the job done, but 2-time Cup champ, Stars in 99, our beloved New Jersey Devils in 2003. Had a monster. This is not obviously related to the GM job. I'm just kind of throwing this out there as well. Second highest point producer for the Devils in that run. I got to throw that in there. But that is not why I want the guy. And people are like, you just want players that weren't good. Like, no, man, I'm not 7 years old. I'm not out here saying, out of nowhere, let's hire Scott Stevens as the GM, even though I probably would I'd give him a role for sure. But I'm not suggesting guys who have been out of the game. Jamie Langenbrunner has paid his dues, been everywhere in hockey, NHL, internationally, well-respected throughout the league. It seems like most people have great things to say about him. And I think that is a guy that would be a phenomenal hire. And the last thing here, aside from Elliott, Anthony DeMarco also tweeted this: with all the GM executive openings at the moment, someone who isn't getting talked about enough is NHL Bruins assistant general manager Jamie Langenbrunner. He is spoken about highly by other executives and oversees Boston's pro scouting, which has been top-notch in recent years. Wonder about him in Nashville and New Jersey. And I think Elliott said he may have interviewed in Nashville, or he expects him to. I mean, that'd be pretty funny if the Devils didn't go with him and then he gets the Nashville gig over Fitz. Wouldn't that be something? But I'm hoping he lands with the Devils. Again, more than one kind of vertical for him. Development, scouting, obviously has done it all as a player. And that is the type of guy that I believe would bring about a massive culture change, which this organization so desperately needs. If you have not seen that by now, then I can't convince you. But it's been broken here for years. This organization has adopted completely loser mentality, and it's just been accepted by the team as a whole and by a portion of the fans, and it needs to change immediately. And without further ado, to talk about this exact topic, my man Jim Biringer from Full Press Hockey. Let me just bring Jim on in here. Jim, how you doing, sir? Oh, I got to do. Whoa, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you today? Thank you for the invite.
Always,
I was
man.
just listening to your spiel, your monologue about Jamie Langenbrunner. Had some laughs in there, but you and I have seen some championship teams. By the way, for people that didn't know, Jamie Langenbrunner was part of the famous trade going back to Dallas that broke up the A line. So that was a highly coveted line, fan favorite line. But when Lou Lamoriello was in charge, he said, nope, got to change something. Line's not bigger than the team. Brings in Langenbrunner, brings in Nieuwendyk, makes some other changes as well. And they win another Stanley Cup. And again, before we get into everything, I'll say this. It could have been Niedermayer, could have been Langenbrunner, could have been Brodeur. 03, one of those guys could have won the Conn Smythe Trophy. So that's my 2 cents on that. That's my 2 cents.
Marty, man. That was Marty that was the fact that Marty talk about this all the time. 3 shutouts in the finals and 7 in the playoffs. Yeah. But so it seems like, would you agree? It seems like we've heard nothing but Shanahan. So it seems like that's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Shanny is going to be the president.
Yeah, his name started to come up even before Monday. The fact of the matter is that he was around the organization, for John McClane Ring of Honor night was kind of it raised my antenna because they haven't had those guys back in a while. Like the 88 guys haven't been around in a while. And to see Shanahan there kind of raised my attention. And the fact that he's still interested, wants to be around the team, wants to do hockey work. And I know, again, some people are down on him because of what happened in Toronto. Well, you know what? He did some good things in Toronto. They were a consistent playoff team. They didn't deep in the playoffs, but they were in the playoffs every year. That he was running the ship outside of the early years when they rebuilt the team. But yeah, Brendan Shanahan, president of hockey operations, he can manage up. He can manage to the owners. He understands everything. And he can be a representative in these board of governors meetings too. That way, that's something the GM has to worry about too. So to have a guy that's been in that role, understands the league, understands this market, Like he's played with the Rangers, he played with the Devils. Like he understands this area. That would be a great hire when they decide to do it.
I hope it gets announced soon. Me and some of my buddies have talked about Shanny forever, and just it is crazy, right? For as much smack as people talk, like, oh, look at Toronto, like, would you, as a Devils fan, not have wanted to be, even if you got flamed out in the first round, would you have rather not had that than what we've had? I mean, sign me up. Playoffs every year. I mean, obviously heartbreaking losses in some of those years, but still better than not making it.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, I go back, and again, you go back to the 90s too. I mean, how many times did Devils have 100-point seasons and flame out in the first round? But you know what? You'd rather have that, but you'd rather have that than not make playoffs, right? Like, I think everybody wants to make the playoff. And you know, we've talked about this. You've talked this phenomenal work, by the way, always. We've talked about the losing culture, but insulating this roster. Shanahan's been on winning teams. He was brought into Detroit. That changed their culture after their, you know, try to be high tempo team. He comes in 97 with a bunch of guys. So he understands what it takes to win too. So it's not just changing the culture in the room. It's changing the culture in the front office, which gets passed down to the room, that losing and being mediocre is no longer acceptable.
I completely agree. All right. So moving on from the president, what do you make, and kind of where are you at with all of the rumor mills of the names being thrown around for the GM spot?
Look, I think I mentioned this name, and you brought him up before, and we talked about him off the top when I came in. I think Langenbrunner is a very high possibility to get the job, not only just because of the New Jersey connections, but he's paid his due. 11 years in Boston, he's scouted. He understands the game. He understands what it takes. And Boston's turned their prospects around, their drafting around. They were not the best, and he was part of it. He's developed a lot of players there, and he understands. You know, again, they're going to have a kid come in there, James Higgins. He was part of that scouting staff to grab him. So I think he's fine. Again, I have some concerns about Sonny Mehta because I'm not sure if and I'm not trying to knock the guy, but how much of it was Sonny Mehta when it came to some of Florida's picks, when it came to trading for Sam Reinhart, picking up Sam Bennett, was Gustav Forsling. That's a waiver wire. But again, it's all encompassing. It's just not one guy, right? It's scouting. It's the hockey ops department. It's basing everything. So yeah, he's a good candidate. Brett Peterson be a good candidate. Evan Golden, Boston's another guy that I've heard that could get some consideration. And then obviously another former guy in the Devils organization too, works in Carolina, which, you know, if you're not going to get Langenbrunner, maybe go get the guy that knows how to beat you the most in Tyler Dello. So, I mean, that would be a nice win for New Jersey too. I mean, he was been in the analytics department in New Jersey as well. So, I mean, those are guys to me that I would be looking at, but I think Langenbrunner is definitely near the top with Sonny Mehta. And I've heard that if Mehta ever got interviewed, it'd be like a John Harbaugh type thing with the Giants, that you don't let him leave the building if you really want the guy. But again, I think the connection with Toronto is too strong that I think he's probably going to Toronto. I'm not sold on Mehta in New Jersey. I'm not sure it's going to happen. That's why I'm leaning more towards the Langenbrunner stuff, because he is a sleeper in all this, because he knows the game. He knows how to surround himself with the right people and build the hockey ops department.
Man, I put this on X. You may have seen it, and I got flamed by so many people. Most of them probably under the age of 25, I would imagine. Some of them not, but sign me up for this front office. Sign me up for this front office immediately. Folks, this is just winning on winning on winning. 8 Stanley Cups between these 3 gentlemen. Shanny has 3 with the Wings. Jamie Langenbrunner, 1 with the Stars, 1 with the Devils, and obviously Marty, 3 with the Devils. But if you look at these guys and you're like, oh, who wants former players? If you don't think these guys have the experience and just the attitude to turn this thing around, I don't know what to tell you. This is just legendary winning at nearly an unprecedented level. And I do think if somehow this plays out, I think our beloved New Jersey Devils will be in a very, very good position.
And these guys know how to make tough decisions too, right? Like, all these guys know how to make tough decisions. Something that we didn't see over the past summer when it come to the former general manager, who, you know, may or may not go to Nashville, which if you're Nashville, you know, do what you want based on sentimental value, but there are other better guys out there. Not to knock the guy. I think, look, at the time when he came in, it was fine. He did some magic, but again, that's not how you run a business. I think you have to try to find the best people available to run a business, and the other qualified guys out there. And you look, whether Marty's an assistant general manager or not, whether he's still the executive vice president, he has input on his team.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's what
they all work together. They all work together, and they all know, as you said, what it takes to win and how to build a team and a culture of winning.
And not to mention, all three of them have another thing in common aside from just winning. They are all from the Lou Lamoriello tree, which, I'm putting stock into that. And people are like, oh, who cares? Marty was around Lou for 20 years. Jamie was around him for a while and was kind of interlinked with him with USA hockey stuff as well. And then obviously Shanny here as a young Devil, and then came back in his later years to finish his career here.
And Lou was one of his first hires up in Toronto.
Yeah. Anytime you have the Lou Lamoriello tree, people will try to discredit that. I certainly will not be one of them. I think that, given all the years they were around him and the things they learned from him, I think that would be very valuable in these positions as well.
No, 100%. I mean, you still hear people talk about Lou. I mean, there's a reason why Matthew Darche kept him on as a senior advisor with the Islanders. Look, as much as flack I give Lou Lamoriello sometimes for the drafting towards the end of his career and putting the team back and just relying on veterans after that run to the final in 2012, he did he set what he did in 87, and then again in the following season when they made the playoffs for the first time, and just added to this team and willingness to go after guys and change the culture in New Jersey. I give him a heck of a lot of credit. I mean, he changed everything about the Devils from a doormat to the league to a team that was respected, that won 3 championships, and won the 5 finals under his watch. He knows the game. It's like, if you can get a resource and you get a phone to this guy, you do. It's like Scotty Bowman, all these guys that have been around these front offices for years. You figure out a way to pick their brain and figure out how to build your team that way, because those are invaluable commodities to have.
A once proud franchise that I do believe these guys can help get us back to. My official prediction, I'm curious for yours, but I'm going to say, because of all of the, what is it technically, like the Toronto acting GM or something is like the agent of Sonny. I can't even keep up, but it's basically like an insider trading kind of thing.
It's a conflict of interest is what
it's a little strange, but I'm not going to complain about it because he's not my number one choice. But I do predict, my prediction, and this is kind of what I'm hoping for as well. I do think Sonny ends up in Toronto and Jamie Langenbrunner is the guy in New Jersey. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'd be 70% sold on that. I'm not gonna lie. I think I said this before. And I'm not the only one. Some people have said this to me as well. They have a feeling that Toronto is gonna find a way to get Sonny Meta and keep him up there and build around him, because it seems like that's the marching orders from Keith Kelly. Meanwhile, New Jersey is open to anything just besides analytics and this data-centric, and data and analytics are kind of, if you think about the terms data-centric and analytics, they're kind of 2 different things. It's more of looking at everything in the data-centric world, not just focusing on one thing. And I did listen to Elliot today too, and I agree with you. And I agree with him. If you're not a well-rounded individual and you're not sticking your nose in all these different little things, you could be left out. And from my understanding, Langenbrunner's in all the meetings up in Boston. Like, he's sticking his nose and learning about every little detail of the game and what players are and what, like, all the numbers that, would bore people. But he understands the game and what he is and the scouting that he does. And to me, I think he's got the inside track to get the job.
Oh man.
That's right now. It could change. It's always ever changing in this world. If somebody comes in and blows them and gives them what they want to hear, that's great. But right now, I mean, if everybody's talking about it, there's a reason his name is out there.
I want it to happen so bad. Before I let you go, do you have any bold, bold predictions or hot takes or anything regarding Devils players heading into next season, whether that's, the looming Nico situation or anything else that you have on your mind in that world?
All right. So I do think Dougie Hamilton will not be on the team next year to start the season. I think he's gone the day after or it might be the same day his signing bonus get paid out. But I think Dougie Hamilton will probably be not on this team next year. I think that's a move that they're going to look to make, is move that cap and move that contract. The Nico situation is probably going to go into the season. I don't expect it to be resolved right away. I don't think it's going to be resolved in July, and I don't know if it's going to be resolved in August either. I think he's going to take his time with it.
Do you think if he doesn't sign the extension, they'd be willing to go that route and just let it play out into the season?
They would have to look into. They would seriously, if he's not I don't want to scare people because the number one centers don't grow on trees, but he's got to look. Everybody, it's easy to see. To take the comments aside from the other day when he was asked about it, if you
which were nothing comments, by the way,
which were nothing comments because
nothing comments,
right? But if you've watched him this year, the post-game pressers, especially when they're not winning, you can tell it's getting to him.
Oh, dude, 100%. I do think the same thing.
It's getting to him. He's been to three playoffs, right? 3 playoffs in his career since he's been drafted. Won 1 playoff round. This team was supposed to be competing for a Stanley Cup. Yeah, so he's going to take a hard, long decision about the extension here. And if he does sign, I don't expect it to be a long-term deal.
Really?
I don't expect it to be a long-term deal. I think he needs to see progress, real progress on this ice, this team.
It's funny. I talked about this last year, and people told me I was crazy. And I was like, buddy, you could tell this guy wants to win, and it is taking a toll on him. It's like, these were just like the fans after the long rebuild. These were supposed to be the glory years, the payoff. It hasn't happened. And he's not a dumb guy. He's seen complete inactivity from the GM position during all these years, especially the last 3 years, right? After setting the franchise record, 112 points, he knows. So he's probably like, where's the help coming? And with Fitz still here, I honestly thought he would definitely be like, I don't know if I ever gave a number before, but I said I thought he would be leaning towards leaving just because, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? I do think in terms of Nico potentially staying, that a new GM definitely would probably work in the Devils' favor in terms of him wanting to be here, because it's kind of a whole kind of fresh start in that regard. And if they have a conversation with him and tell him, we understand what had happened here in however many prior years, but we're not going to sit idly, while the team has obvious needs or holes and do nothing to fix them. Now, again, he's going to be like, oh, I heard this before. But in that regard, don't you think it would mean a lot more coming from a guy like Jamie Langenbrunner versus maybe somebody else?
It would, but I'm just saying the way the league is going, you're seeing it. You saw it this past summer with Connor McDavid, who had been to the final and lost. He only signed a 2-year extension. He put his management staff on the clock that say, I want to win. These guys want to win, and they're not. And you just said it. He's not stupid. He sees what's going on. Look, but the Vancouver situation with Quinn Hughes was completely different. But you're starting to see other rumblings about maybe Matthews in Toronto, maybe Brady in Ottawa. These guys want to go win, and if they don't see a path to winning, they're going to want to go to a team that has a chance.
With those particular guys, I think there's a whole lot more.
Well, there's outside factors. There's outside factors. But what I'm saying is, if it just feels like this one's not as cut and dry as it's messy. It's very messy. I could see this going into the season. I really could.
I hate to say this, but I don't know that would be wise by the Devils. I don't think you're in a spot where it's like, listen, if you don't sign the extension, the deal. This is a business. We got to make a move here. And I hope it doesn't come to that. I've talked
No,
about, a lot of people are down on Nico, and when the team's been bad for the majority of the last 15 years, you're going to get people that are like extremists and hate on everything. But obviously this is a much better team with Nico than without. But if he doesn't sign the extension, I just, it's going to be brought up every 2 seconds. I do feel like, and aside from, the injury risk and the assets you're trying to recover from him if you're going to move on, I just feel like it would be a completely nonsensical distraction that the team does not need on top of everything else. And that's why for me, it's like extension or we got to make the move.
Well, yeah, and I think that it's going to be a lot of discussions with him. Like, do you want to be here? Do you see yourself here? Like, that's why I say if an extension happens, maybe it's just a 3-4 year deal to see where everything's at. Like,
do you think? I don't know. I feel like those are so rare, though. I mean,
well, Matthews started it. Matthews kind of started this 4-year thing, but again, we've seen so many guys.
That's a lot of gambling, dude. That's a lot. If a team's like, "Yo, we'll give you," I'm going to use fake numbers, but say, what is the max now? 7 years, right? Is that the max?
7, yeah, now 7.
7.
Actually, it's still 8 years up until I think either it's mid-September or mid-October.
But only the team they're
with. Yeah.
So the Devils could be like, listen, 8 years. I mean, fake numbers again, but let's just call it $11.5 million. So it's $92 million. Like, what their agents are all pushing for. They're like, no. Let's just get this long-term bag and get this over with. So, he's going to have that kind of in 1 year as well. Like, get the long-term contract, get the money. It's all just so messy, man.
Look, I think here's the deal. I think whoever the new general manager is, whether it's Langenbrunner, whether it's whoever, and Brendan Shanahan comes in, you're going to have to sit him down and you have to pull Winnipeg Jets is like they did with Kyle Connor and like with Connor Hellebuck. Here's our plan. This is our vision. And this is where we're going. Do you believe in it? If you do, here's the dotted line. If you don't, we're going to have to figure out a way to like get assets for you.
Wow. Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a long time. And like I said, last year, people told me I was crazy. I was like, this guy's been part of losing teams his whole career. You think he's want to just stay here and keep losing? Like, Nico's a lifer. I'm like, based on what? I do believe he likes it here, but I also believe he wants to win.
That's the same thing. And like you just said it before, you said this was supposed to be the boom years coming out of those losing years. Where's the boom years? They're not here yet. This team has been set back. When I said this to somebody Saturday, I don't know if you were at the game, when it felt like the Bell Center at the Prudential Center on Saturday.
Coincidentally, I told everybody it's crazy. Aside from the Montreal fans, the most packed I've seen the building all year, which essentially when we're already done, which included the 8-game heater. I guess there really is, especially around here, the boost that they get in attendance or whatever after football. Like, I don't know what it is. People just start checking into hockey after football season, but during the 8-game heater, there was some weak crowds. And I'm like, look at this. Even if you took the Montreal fans out of the equation, packed house, kind of lively. And I'm like, we're out of the playoffs. Like, I don't understand how this happened.
But I talked to some Montreal guys there, and they were asking me. I ran a couple guys, and they're like, "Oh, Devils this year, tough year." And I'm like, "Yeah, but Montreal is exactly where the Devils should have been 2 years ago."
For sure. All right, the last one. I'll let you go. What is your dream? I always like to say to everybody, I like to try to keep my pipe dreams somewhat realistic, because some people come with just the craziest stuff. But like, what would be your somewhat realistic pipe dream move or moves for the Devils to look at for this summer?
Ooh, good question. Very good question. Pipe dream realistic. Look,
some realistic pipe dreams. Keep them. Some people are like, get McDavid. I'm like, come on. Like,
all right. Somewhat realistic. Start talking to Ottawa about Brady Tkachuk.
Oh, baby. Another one that I have to say, Jim, I was talking about that 2 years ago, and people flamed me. You're an idiot. Senators fans were crying. He was the ideal piece 2 years ago, and he remains the ideal piece for this team. Period.
If you can't go that route, I'm going to go check into St. Louis, see what Jordan Kyrie's worth, what's Robert Thomas worth. Those guys. Like, Kyrie's numbers are really good. Like, to me, those guys are guys you need. Now, is Tkachuk better than those guys? The intangibles, absolutely, and I think he's a better player too. But again, if Ottawa wants like 50, whatever. They want to go Herschel Walker on you, and then you're like, all right, pass, whatever. But
what would they realistically demand for him though? Like what?
I think realistic probably be probably in Hughes territory, probably.
Wait, so you cut out. What was that?
I said you're probably in Quinn Hughes territory. I would think like a first-round pick, prospect, a player that could play now. Look, realistically, you know who they're going to ask for because Vancouver asked for your number one center. And they said no.
Oof. I will say this. If they somehow got Nico to sign, and then they were able to also, and obviously this is cap space, but, with all these, veteran defensemen and Dougie and potentially Mercer, I do think there's a way to clear the money. If they could get Nico locked up and then bring Brady on top, I think that could be dynamite. Again, so pipe dreamy, but it's not that pipe dreamy, I don't think.
No, it's not, because I talked with somebody today because I got a call. We're talking about I was just this morning, we're just, BSing drafts and stuff about, they want to know what Devils were going on. And somebody had brought up the Quinn Hughes situation. And I said, if I was a business person looking at the Devils capology, I worry about that later. I figure out a way to get the second best defenseman in the game today on my team, no matter what the cost, and we figure out the money later.
That was such a massive whiff.
It was Ace. It was on a tee, ready to go over the park. And
you're gonna get me all fired up. And I'm trying not to kick people's backs in, but like, damn, Fitz, like, how do you blow that? Like that Rutherford was like told the whole world in April, like, yeah, he wants to play with his brothers, and then you got caught with your pants down. And I'll never believe, I don't know where you're at with this, I will never believe it wasn't entirely a cap space situation. People, they made it sound like that Wild package was so much better than anything the Devils offered. I'm not buying it.
The Devils had to ask us to do it. I know clearing money was an issue, but like I just said, you clear the money. You worry about clearing the money later.
What a whiff.
Yeah. It would have happened that weekend anyway. So you remember the home and home with the Ducks and Canucks back to back, that home weekend in December?
Yeah.
Remember how his stuff was in his brother's car and they had to go ship it to Minnesota?
When they said that, I was like, it did make it seem as though he never thought he was going back. Like he thought he was just here.
Again, multiple people have told me this. I kind of believe it. Whether you're on the fence or not, I'll leave you with this one. It was that weekend that trade was going to go down. So, yeah. Have fun sleeping on it. Exactly. Again, revisionist history, all that stuff, whatever. But again, these are things that if you're in a hockey ops department, you're looking at business return on investments. You say to yourself, okay, where can I get things done? How do we do it later? Because there was a way to do it, and they just didn't do it.
Oh, there was definitely a way to do it. Last one.
Yeah.
Do you think he signs with the Wild this summer, or what do you think happens with Quinn?
That one's 50-50 for me in the summer. I know he likes it there, but that brotherly thing is still weighing out there. I still think that bond is strong.
It is, but on the flip side, if they wanted to stay together long term, they're going to have to, as Fitz would say, leave a lot of meat on the bone. If you look at all three of them over the course of however many years, is worth playing with your brothers worth collectively however many millions of dollars that is. I mean, you would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, you would like to do it.
But, it's easier to say than.
I think Billy G's going to back up the Brinks truck to Quinn Hughes and get him signed.
I think so too. And
so do I. Yeah.
And then there's no, potentially trying to play 4D chess. Like, we need to save this money. Let's spend it all now and get these guys. Jim, awesome talking to you, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Friday night. Give me, tell everyone where they can find you. I almost forgot that. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, check me out at Jim Biringer on Twitter. You can follow me also at Phil Press NHL on Twitter as well. Full Press Media and Full Press Hockey on YouTube. We drop a lot of fun stuff. We'll get Ace on the program because, running with the Devils, everybody loves talking about this team.
My man, appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend. Hopefully we have some exciting news to celebrate soon.
Absolutely. Enjoy the weekend, guys. Take care.
Later, Jim. Take care. And there he is, Jim Biringer, talking New Jersey Devils news and rumors. And I'm going to get to the chat in a minute. Wow. What an exciting time to be a Devils fan, though, guys. We are on the verge of entering a new era of New Jersey Devils hockey, and it seems like Brendan Shanahan will be the man at the top as the president and a to-be-named general manager. But I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. But, that's what I'm rooting for, folks. I'll be back 1 second. But the Shanahan, Jamie Langenbrunner tandem, I am certainly looking and hoping that is what happens. But I'll be back 1 minute. Give me 1 second. Be right back. All right. See what you people are talking. I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree with some of the things that I had said, but, everyone has their own opinion. TJK talking about Markey says, nagging injuries more like nagging this team by being a terrorist. Come on. You guys are down on Markey. Everyone's down on Markey. We got to hope for the bounce back. And Jamie's a little more optimistic. Markey will bounce back. Fan base needs to stop blaming him on every cross-crease tape in prime Hasek wouldn't save. What better goal are you going to get for $6 million? Well, I will say the $6 million is borderline. It is a little bit wild, but I do think that was something that was probably promised or kind of a handshake deal with Fitz before it was announced. I'd have to believe that because for as much as people want to bash Fitz, I don't think that whole thing was concocted when it was announced. I don't think he was like, oh, in the midst of a troubling season, let's pay this guy for 2 more years, $6 million. And I do think it was probably something worked out ahead of time and he made good on it. You can't burn a player like that. And that's not to excuse it, but that may have been all part of even him agreeing to come here. So we'll never probably know the finite details on that either, but it does seem like that could be something that was part of it. But all we could do is hope that Markey bounces back if he's here. And if they do move on from him, that the next goaltender or goaltenders will play good next year. But I do think there's a very good chance it could be Markey. And I hope, we see a bounce back year from him. Jim just messaged me that he's going to be on Sirius XM tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. So definitely check that out. But yeah, the goaltending, one of the many areas the incoming GM of the New Jersey Devils will have to navigate. Jersey 61 at this point. What's it matter? Wake me up when September comes. It can't come soon enough. I am once again, just like that this season, super fired up coming into it. And man, that 8-game heater. Oh my God. The 8-game heater really made me believe everything that I thought coming into the season. I know many of you guys, it was fool's gold. And we bought it. We bought the fool's gold, and I hope next year is not fool's gold. The new GM has a lot of work to do pretty much everywhere. Defense, forwards, goaltending, different positions within the organization. And that is why, as I've said before, many times, this is the biggest offseason in New Jersey Devils history. I mean, a lot of people are going to disagree, but given where we are as a team, with the age of the guys we have, we're right on that fence of, are you going to become a legitimate contender or are you going to kind of crumble and have to do some sort of rebuild? And this higher rings, I should say, the higher rings will determine that. BMP, I think the GM and president will have to take a long look at everyone other than a few players, for example, jackhughes. Yeah, obviously, I got to skip ahead here. Sorry, guys. I'm super far behind. I want to do a couple of these earlier comments. But, anyone not named Hughes potentially, I think, could be on the table. This is going to be a very crucial time in New Jersey Devils history. I mean, this is it. Cape Dollar says analytics specialist makes me nervous. I mean, listen, Sonny Meta was part of the Panthers. Again, people will give different reports. I'd be curious to know exactly what he was involved in, but as I just talked about with Jim and Elliot Friedman talked about on 32 Thoughts, and again, check that out. Very good, insightful kind of segment from Elliot. Jamie's been involved in pretty much everything there is in hockey between his playing days and scouting, player development, all these things. He has a more well-rounded, experience base to draw from in this role as general manager. He does have more experience, period. And that's not to knock Sonny Meta, but that's just the fact is that Jamie does have more experience. And we'll see how it goes. But I do think whoever they pick is going to have a lot of other analytics people behind them. It's not like, oh, they went with Jamie Langenbrunner. They're thumbing their nose at analytics. Analytics is going to be a part of every team going forward for the rest of our lives. So, it's not like they're completely moving away from analytics. There's still going to be an analytics department that obviously will have their hand in all of these personnel decisions. And the other thing I want to always point out is that analytics has been here for years through Fitz's entire tenure. And so analytics is no guarantee of success, as we saw with Fitz. For the people that want to talk about how good analytics and all these things are, where were those analytics decisions when the team struggled for the past however many years you want to count? All right, and now I'm skipping ahead, folks. I apologize. We got Robbie's bench toss. Langenbrunner would be an interesting choice. No matter who gets the job, it's already going to be a culture shift. I agree with that, but I do think certain guys will bring a bigger shift than others, and I do think Jamie Langenbrunner would represent a sizable culture shift, along with Shanahan as well. But to your point, there will be a change no matter what. But I think Langenbrunner really brings that kind of outlook and attitude that the team needs. Old Man Rob, Robert Paulzer, Old Man Rob here. Just wanted to thank you, Ace, for great NJ news and dialogue. Been a fan for a couple of years now. Keep rocking. I tip my Devil's hat to you. Hit the like. Appreciate that. Give Edwards a shot. I've wanted to see Edwards too, especially now that we've been eliminated. I thought we would see some more kids get a chance, but Vilen and Daws is a start. Something to really look forward to, kind of the game within the game tomorrow. What do these guys look like? We're going to find out. All right, I'm trying to scroll ahead here. Richie, let's not forget these guys all learned and played for Lou. They are not only legendary Devils, but the tree they grew on. To you punks, I saw it all. People discredit it. People are very quick to discredit any sort of connection or anything with Lou. People are very quick to dismiss, and I do think a lot of the people didn't live through it, which is fine. And like I said, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. There is no correct answer here, and you never know how someone's going to do till they're in the seat. But I do think that Jamie Langenbrunner would be a huge get for this team. Pro Bowl Forever says, I put Nico and Salayev in a package for Brady Tkachuk if Hamilton is gone this offseason. Listen, I want Brady Tkachuk more than anything. I don't know that there's ever been a player throughout my entire, 32-year career as a fan, if there's ever been a player I've ever wanted more at a specific time, because, it went throughout all the years. There's always guys like, oh, I wish we could get him and blah, blah, blah. But given where the team is and all of these, the issues that are seemingly kind of there, I don't think there's ever been a better fit, at least to me, than the obvious fit of what Brady would bring to this team right now on and off the ice. It is just so perfect on so many levels. And I would suspect that a guy like Jamie Langenbrunner would quickly identify that if he hasn't already. And wow, just thinking of, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but if we see Shanny and then Langenbrunner, and then he goes out and does something like Brady Tkachuk, my God, not only would it be the biggest offseason in Devils history, it'd be clearly the most exciting. Jim is in the house. He was in the house. Cisco Kid says, I just hope Fitz disease doesn't linger past his departure with regards to our Devils. No, this is a new era, and whoever comes in is going to try to put their, stamp or thumbprint on the team. And I would love to see it be a big-time deal or big-time move or moves. But, the top of my list has been for multiple years now. Some of you know that have been watching me for a while. A couple years ago, I talked about how Brady Tkachuk would be a perfect piece for this team because, like many of you, this team, you have seen that this team has been too easy to play against, and Brady Tkachuk is an absolute menace. Christopher says, we're talking about Nico here. Agree, Ace, extend. Yeah, and listen, I really do like Nico. I hope it all works out. But if he's not willing to sign the extension, I really don't want that kind of hanging over the team and being a distraction in our first season in the post-Fitzgerald era. I just don't think it would be good. So it's like, listen, put all your cards on the table to him, whoever this new GM is. Put all your cards on the table, explain to him the vision, the plan, this is what we're trying to do, blah, blah, blah. And if he doesn't want to be a part of it, then I think at that point you need to swiftly move on from him and not let it linger. Because as you saw with the Dougie thing, and this one would be way bigger, obviously, Nico would be a huge kind of looming situation. But you even saw it with Dougie when the stories came out that Fitz tried to trade him and then didn't, and then he didn't want to talk to the media. And it was just constantly brought up, and it's just all background noise that I don't think the team needs, especially coming out of the Fitzgerald era. We don't need any more distractions. You want to be here or you don't. And if not, good luck in the future and move on from him. But hopefully none of that happens. Hopefully he is a lifelong Devil, as many of you have said you think he's going to be, and is part of bringing the Stanley Cup back to New Jersey. Would absolutely love to see it. What's going on, John Fay? I would like Nyes. We've talked about Nyes a bunch. I would like Nyes, but I would aim a little bit higher initially. Probolt says, I'd say Nico, Salaya, first-round pick, and another player for Brady Tkachuk. That certainly seems very expensive. I don't know that it would take all of that. And I'm hoping to keep Nico Hischier long-term and add Brady Tkachuk on top. That would be beautiful. Faye says, I wouldn't mind Langenbrunner, but I think we should find someone outside the organization. I mean, he is outside the organization. He's been with Boston for 11 years. Obviously, he has the Devils tie, former Stanley Cup champion and captain, but he certainly would fall under the jurisdiction of someone outside the organization. Vecna says the Quinn fumble still hurts. It's going to hurt for a while. And who knows, maybe he eventually does end up here, but I don't feel good about it and never did. I do think the chances or likelihood of him potentially coming here someday went up a little bit when Fitz left. But I do think there's a very, very good chance that Billy G gets him to sign on the line, which is dotted this summer. Jay Snow says, I don't know about Shani and Langenbrunner together. I don't like that mix. That's interesting. Why is that? Probolt says, I'd be fine with either Meta or Jamie as GM. Yeah, likewise. I just have my preference, which is Jamie Langenbrunner, but I do think Sonny Meta could be a good GM. But the fact that he is kind of just solely analytics does worry me a little bit. Obviously, having Shani over him would ease my concerns a little bit. But I just think for all the things that go into this, Jamie Langenbrunner would be the guy to get. John Fay, if we were fed fool's gold under a new GM, then it's either ownership or the players themselves feeding us that gold. I mean, I can see why you think that, but, this season in particular, I do think a lot of it just came down to, players underperforming. And then obviously the, Chicago cut and injuries, like they just couldn't overcome it. And they got to bring in guys who are going to help this team continue to win in the event that Jack Hughes goes down. I do think you have to be insulated from that. You saw this season when he went down, everyone disappeared. And that's, an indictment on those players, but it's also an indictment on Fitz, because he didn't do anything to bring anyone else in for help and just the hoping and wishing. And it was mentioned, I saw somewhere online on some show, I forget which one, but someone had mentioned that they had heard, part of the reason they moved on from Fitz was the inactivity. And yeah, the inactivity was just excruciating. You cannot be that idle. You got to make moves when you see things that are problem areas. And we saw plenty of them with the Devils over the past few seasons. Pro Bowl says Dubas is doing good in Pittsburgh. Not all analytics people are bad. No, I'm not saying they are. But I personally would prefer to have someone a little more well-rounded with more varying types of experiences in conjunction with the analytics team. Like, you have an analytics team, so I don't necessarily need to have the GM be an analytics guy. Now, that's not to say that I'm totally against it. Like I've said, I think Sonny Meta could be good, but I personally would feel more comfortable with Jamie Langenbrunner. Jay Snow, Boston has like 3 assistant GMs. How much is Langenbrunner responsible for? Well, you could read the bio. He's been involved. You know, you're never going to know, like, you know, who did what exactly, but he's very involved, was in player development, scouting, climbed the ranks, became assistant GM, and has his hand in a lot of different things there. That's on top of all of the experience and knowledge he had from his playing career. I think a guy like that could definitely help. Maria says, Sonny was here already. What did he do? Did we win a cup? No, he did not. He did not, Maria. But these people will tell you, well, he won with Florida, you know, so he's the guy. And I do think it's just people like to, I don't know. I haven't figured it out. But because he was part of the Florida Panthers Cups, they just automatically make him the best candidate, and anyone else is ridiculous because what did they do as an executive? And Sonny won 2 cups. And, like, I get it to some extent, but it is a little short-sighted in my opinion, because just like you're asking, or other people are asking about what other guys did, like, we don't know exactly what Sonny Meta did, and that's not to discredit him, but, you know, he didn't win it solely on his own. Chris says there will be an overpay when Rangers and the Devils get in the bidding war for Brady. That certainly would be interesting, right? I know a lot of Rangers fans are super high on him as well. And I do think, you know, if you're a fan of any team, who wouldn't want Brady Tkachuk on their team? I mean, there's obviously some people out there that are just, I'll call them the lost bunch, that are like, oh, I don't want any part of that. I guess I'm not surprised that people were saying that a few weeks ago when the Brady Devils stuff started churning up again. And really, it's just people identifying that he'd be a perfect fit here and talking about it, but there is no obvious connection or rumor. I mean, the connections are to the state of New Jersey, you know, being that his wife is from here. He has a summer place here. He's friends with Jack, but you'd imagine it would be a pretty desirable spot for him to land if he was on the move. Jack Hughes Truther, the Tri-State Hockey Pod, mentioned that the Devils may not hire Shanahan anymore and may only hire a GM and make Marty the president. Also, just a correction, Fitz did win a cup in 2009 as part of management. Yeah, I forgot, with the Pittsburgh, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. But he didn't make moves like a winner. I'll say that. I forgot about that he got that Penguins Cup. Just the Tri-State, they mentioned they might not hire Shanahan anymore. That's interesting, and make Marty the president. I would be okay with that, but I do like Shanny because Marty's not going anywhere, and so then you have just an extra voice. Then you're talking about a front office that that was made up of Shanny as president, whoever is the GM, and then Marty kind of in whatever front office role you want to call it. I think technically right now he's like executive vice president of hockey ops, but you know, he's there and as a voice. That's interesting. Marty as the president with a GM. I'm okay with that as well. But I do like if we brought in someone other than Marty. Marty's still here, so it's just you're getting like an extra guy. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. Richie says, Ace, Jim speculated that Nico could take a short-term deal, say 3 years at $34 million. That is really risky from an organizational standpoint. Yes and no. I would say it's more risky for Nico personally. And I just, anything could happen, but I don't think, I personally think he's going to want a long-term deal, whether that's with the Devils or in free agency. You know, agents are pretty convincing. And when you're talking about the difference between a 3-year deal at $34 million or, you know, a 7-year deal at $84 million or something, I think a lot of guys are going to want that guaranteed money, but it's certainly a possibility. Devil Heaven says, honestly, goaltending is the newest issue. Yeah, I mean, it was the one issue or one department I would say heading into the season, I thought most people felt okay about. I mean, a lot of people have been openly critical of the old goaltending tandem, and like I certainly get it. We have seen old goalies get it done as well. Obviously, Marty was 40 when the Devils went to the last Cup Finals. Bobrovsky was in his mid-30s when the Panthers won. But it didn't seem like a pressing need. And I'm not going to say that it is a pressing need now, but it's certainly an area of concern, Devil Heaven. I completely agree with that. Jay Snow, if you look at all these top Cup contenders, the Devils just can't play the style. They're not built right. Yeah. And that can be changed with some big-time acquisitions. Jack Hughes Truther, my pipe dream player is Tom Wilson. Oh, baby. Caps are going in another direction with Ovi potentially retiring, Carlson trade. Wilson is also cheaper and locked on term. First, second, Nemitz. I would love Tom Wilson. My buddy Steve the Maniac always talks about Tom Wilson. And, you know, no surprise here to those that kind of know me. Tom Wilson would certainly be on the top of my wish list as well. The guy does everything, will fight people, hit, totally brings that energy and the juice, can score goals. Would love Tom Wilson. That would be phenomenal. I don't know. Are the Caps going to completely blow it up? I mean, that'd be interesting. I'm all in on Tom Wilson if he becomes available as well. Traveling Devil, what's going on? It would probably be smart to trade Nico and make Jack the C. Move on from the past era and start a new one. Go for Brady and others of toughness and heart. Maybe it could bring Quinn in too. I mean, that's certainly an idea. I don't know that. Yeah, I do think there is probably some level of an appetite on the team, or at least the owners, agenda, if you will, to make Jack the C. I mean, that obviously is something that would certainly be significant and really, make the announcement that this is a new era and he is a brand new guy on and off the ice after the Olympics. I mean, I think anyone who's been paying attention, you're like, what the hell happened to this guy? I mean, he's playing lights out. You see him doing leadership things. You saw him in the box with Dilly, picked up his equipment, gave him the hug. Keith has talked about he's been more vocal in the locker room and stuff. It's all part of the warp speed maturation of Jack Hughes post-Olympics. And I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, right? Would they be the aggressor in potentially moving on from Nico, or will they wait to see if he wants to come back? I mean, I don't know. It's certainly possible. If they do go that route, they better be well equipped to make sure we get another decent center back here. But this is something, again, I talked about with Steve the Maniac. Is that appetite to make Jack the captain enough to make this move in the summer? I mean, it's going to be very interesting. Very interesting plot line on the summer. Jason O'Shanney was known to be too hands-on. You need to let your GM do his job. Interesting. Was that I don't know if I've heard that. Alan Ace, to be honest, I don't care who we bring in GM-wise. All I know is the Devils as a team need to get much bigger and tougher as a team to play against. Yeah, completely agree. I've thought this for years. I mean, you've just seen when it comes to warfare hockey, the Devils didn't thrive in it, and that needs to change, and that changes with bringing in the players that play that game. Whether it's the Brady Kachucks of the world, Tom Wilson. The other night I talked about a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi. I mean, you got to get some nasty guys that play a nasty brand of hockey. Jack McCabe, Ace, haven't been here in a while, but thank goodness step one of the most important offseason in franchise history is done with Vince the Clown out. Well, that's the first piece, but there's a lot more to go. Devil Heaven says, Ace, cool hat, brother. Thank you. I like your your profile picture. I just realized is the Lowell Devils. What a logo. John Fay, they said they were going to make the Rock a hard and tough building to play in, but I haven't seen us playing that hockey in our barn this entire season. This entire season has been heartbreaking, honestly, on so many levels. And the fact that they went, the heater really, man, it really did put me into what I would call a delusional realm, because I was high, as many of you know, I was super high on the team in the summer. I was feeling good. I was like, if Jack stays healthy, that's going to be a thing every year. But if Jack stays healthy, this could really be a special season. And then our daddy, Carolina Hurricanes, beat us on opening night, and people were like, oh, I didn't put too much into it because I just knew the Hurricanes have owned us for years. But then to rip off the 8 games, I was flying high, and I really thought, all right, this team is legit. This is going to be a decent season. And then Chicago cut, and it all went down. It all went downhill. Traveling Devils' players respond to Jack. Devil Heaven analytics is the game today. I mean, it plays a big part in the game, but it cannot be the biggest factor in personnel decisions. It just cannot be. Jay Snow, Tolsky's an analytical guy. He's doing a good job. Traveling, goaltending has been an issue since Brodeur left. Oh, we've had a carousel of some very interesting names over the years. And really, outside of those couple years of Corey Schneider, we have really suffered in net. And I did think that once we got Markey, that we were kind of past that. But here we are. And that's, also why I think it was a few summers ago now when those Hellebuck rumors came up. I was pumped. I wanted Hellebuck more than anything. Old school Lou Lamoriello philosophy. You build a team from the net out. When I heard Hellebuck to the Devils, I was like, oh my God, please let it happen. And obviously it didn't happen. And, who knows what would have happened from then till now. But anytime you can have a stud goalie, I'm always on board. Aqua, my predictions will come to fruition. Daws about to have a ridiculously good end to the season and be the one that should have been in net all year. I've always been very pro Nico Daws since he's first shown up on the scene. I don't think he really ever got a fair shake for whatever reason. Similar to Akira Schmidt, I would say. I didn't think, he got a fair shake either. And goaltending has been largely a problem area for years now. I do agree. Like I growing up with Marty, you want to see the franchise guy and just have him as a constant for years. It hasn't happened for the Devils. I thought Akira Schmidt could have possibly been that guy. Then we, went this route with the older goalies kind of in the interim. And it's another reason why so many people, including myself, are hoping that either, I guess I'm still going to include Daws in the group, that either Daws, Jakub Malik, or Yegorov could be a future franchise goalie and somebody who's just you could count on for a decade plus. Sunrise Art Cinema reality is we are never going to know how successful a GM is. I guess how successful a GM is going to be until we have one for a chunk of time. Everything is hypothetical and discussion. I'm just happy Fitz is gone. Completely agree. You don't know until you know. You all you could do is make an educated hire and hope for the best based on the information available to you. And I would say Jamie Langenbrunner and Meta would both be good hires. Aqua says, and Marty will stay in the front office and the shit show will continue on since they refuse to clean house. I'd imagine there's going to be some house cleaning coming up, whether that's, it's going to be when the new president and general manager come in, I think. I'm trying to think about this. If Marty is the president, does that make some other people more likely to stay on? That's interesting. I didn't think of it from that perspective. I suppose it's possible. Devil Heaven's talking Casey Edwards, Diot, some young blue liners who Diot I was excited about during the Prospects Challenge tournament. He looked pretty good. And Edwards is a guy that I thought could be close to NHL ready as well. Can one or more than one of these guys be an everyday player for the Devils next year and make one of the veterans expendable? I certainly think it's possible. And I would have liked to see all these guys in games like this where they don't matter anymore. Robbie's bench toss. If Heischer is not going to extend, I could see Quinn for Nico, but we're about to have a major hole at 2C. Completely agree. If you're moving on from Nico, you better figure out how you're getting as good of a center as possible from somewhere else. And it probably will be, obviously, I can't expect them to get someone who's better than Nico. I mean, that'd be crazy, but you hope the drop-off is not colossal. But yeah, for sure, you cannot deal Nico without bringing a center back in, and it needs to be a damn good center. The Quinn for Nico thing, a lot of people have been talking about that. I don't know how likely that is. I would be curious to know how Billy G and the Wild handle Quinn if he doesn't sign an extension this summer. Essentially, they're in the same position as the Devils with Nico. That would be a really interesting one. You know, how do they handle that? If he's like, I don't know yet, or if he tells them he's definitively not going to re-sign there. Like, we have no idea where Quinn's head's at. I'm sure Billy G will be having that conversation with him this summer when he's eligible to sign the extension, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on. Devil Heaven says, Michigan, Denver, what a game, go blue. Yeah, ended in, what was that, double overtime, right? I caught the end of that. Jason said that game was sick. Great ending. Nice shot. Pro Bolt, I'm all in on Brady Tkachuk. I've been all in on Brady Tkachuk for years now. And how likely is it? I don't know. Probably not very, but the new GM should certainly try. Make a really hard push to Ottawa. Devil Heaven says we don't need too many tweaks, just the right ones. I agree, but it may end up being more than you realize, because if you're talking about at least a couple guys on defense, a few guys up front, maybe a goalie, like there is substantial work here, I think, to be done. Aqua, no Casey getting called up, remarkable. I'm not surprised, though, because if you look back earlier in the season, we had, Colton White was the first call up on D, and there may have been, was there another one after that? I'm trying to think. But I remember there was multiple times where you're like, oh, is Casey going to get the call? And he didn't. So then that kind of told me, like, that he's not maybe as high on the depth chart in their minds internally as we thought, because obviously we saw the small sample size, including that global series, when he really showed out well with some of those fancy stick moves and that beautiful shot that he has. But I do think, from Keefe, and we heard a couple other things, that they were a bit concerned about his play in the D zone. There was some shifts where he was really pinned in there, and the opposition kind of gave him some problems. And so he wasn't one of the first defensemen called up. It was a bit surprising at the time, but I'm very curious to see what the future holds for Seamus Casey. If they don't have any plans for him being in the NHL sometime soon, then they definitely should explore trading him. YouTube OG says the heart of the team died when they didn't let Marty finish out his career in NJ as a starter. Sucked the soul out of the franchise. Man, I don't know. It was a weird time. Obviously, I didn't like it. Marty was my favorite player as a kid. Franchise legend, 3 Stanley Cups. We had Corey Schneider when he was playing very good hockey. It was a messy situation, and unfortunate the way it ended. And seeing those photos of Marty as a St. Louis Blue will forever haunt my dreams. It should have never happened. He should have retired a Devil, obviously. But Marty, at that point, I think it was close to a split that last season in terms of starts. And, Marty, being the competitor that he is, really wanted to be a starting goalie and, wanted to go elsewhere and experience something else. And he's talked about that as well. Being that he was at the end of his career, he was always curious, he said, about, experiencing another organization and how they do things, because all he knew was the Devils from when he was a young man. Drafted by the Devils, into his 40s. He never knew anything else. And he said there was a little bit of intrigue factor there, that he wanted to experience another organization, and he did with St. Louis. He stuck there, I think, for a couple years and worked in the front office with Doug Armstrong, and he liked the experience. So it does suck that he did not retire a lifelong Devil, but it is what it is. Devil Heaven says, if you don't want to be a Devil, now you can't leave. Great line from one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time. Great scene in A Bronx Tale. That bar scene, sick. Christopher says Yegorov is our future, and net Daws can kick rocks. Come on, man. Jason said Schmidt is cheeks. He's been bad with Vegas too. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure all their goalies' numbers are pretty bad. I looked the other day. I think his might be amongst. I want to say his numbers may have been the best. Oddly enough. Casey's hurt again. I can't keep track. I know he's been hurt multiple times. John Fay, we won't see Yegorov for another 2 years, maybe 3, depending on if he develops faster. Yeah, I could see him going back one more year for college and then playing a year in the A, maybe. But who knows? Yeah, back to college and maybe time in the A. But who knows? Maybe there is a world where he plays one more year in college and jumps straight to the pros in a backup role. I mean, not that likely. Still very young. But very excited for the future in goal with him as a part of it. Pro Bolt says Daws or Malik Allen as the tandem. That's not going to be next year, though. Yeah, this is it's an interesting situation we're in right now in terms of goaltending. Rendich 2, Quinn trade will be the biggest issue to me of this season and by far the main reason Fitz deserved to get fired. I mean, it was a huge fumble. It was the biggest fumble in franchise history, no doubt. But for me, there's so many things you could point to, but the one that always irks me the most is that 23-24 season, because I feel like it was the most obvious and the most fixable for the most gain. And what I mean by that is we had horrible goaltending. All you had to do was get an average NHL goaltender, and I think we could have at least made the playoffs, which would have been huge, I think, for this team and their kind of development as a group. And it just did nothing, and then got 2 goalies on deadline day. Like that, to me, that was just a really, really egregious inactivity that was just horrible. Like, because I don't think it was that difficult. It shouldn't have been that difficult to do. We saw Colorado last year took they got both of former Devil goalies in the same season and redid their tandem. I forget who else was there. It was Gorgiev and somebody else. And Colorado was like, these guys suck, and they literally went out and got Blackwood and Wedgwood. And now look at the 2 of them and the Colorado Avalanche as a team. So I'll never believe that it was impossible to get average NHL goaltending, and that was the one that really will stick out to me as the most criminal. Pro Bolt says I'd rather trade for Brady over Quinn. So would I. I would love either one of them. But I just feel like we have far more of a need up front than defense. But both of them are phenomenal players, and it would be great to get either one of them. Why call up Vilen? He's rumored to play in Finland next season. I never saw that rumor, but I'd have to imagine that rumor is contingent on if the Devils... Well, actually, what is his contract? Did he sign? I'm assuming that's heavily financially... Yeah, so this is the last year of his entry level, and he's a restricted free agent. Yeah, I'd imagine if the Devils offer him a contract, he would want, and that actually, now it makes sense why they called him up, because they're probably trying to get a gauge if it's worth offering him a contract or letting him go to Finland. I'm assuming, obviously it's only a couple games, but between practices and the couple games, if the Devils feel comfortable with him, maybe they offer him a deal this summer and he does not go to Finland. I'd have to believe if the Devils offer him a contract, he'd love to sign it and have a chance to play in the league. Travelin says Quinn won the gold with Jack. He's got to win a cup with him and Luke now. Man, that would be phenomenal. Travelin, I think the Olympics changed things when it comes to Quinn staying in Minnesota, meaning you think he's more likely to leave or less likely to leave? Jay Snow, even Bertuzzi's most likely returning to Chicago helped Bedard. Bertuzzi's having a monster season. He was a guy that I talked about a couple years ago, and he was a free agent. When people always ask, like, oh, which guys? Scritty. Bertuzzi is scritty as they come. Would have liked him then. I would still like him now. Rendich says, I don't think Casey will make 100 NHL games in his career. Might be wrong, but just a feeling. I mean, you never know, right? It's an interesting prediction. I do think if the Devils don't have plans to bring him in the mix soon, that they should, for Casey's sake and for the Devils to get some assets for him, trade him. I could see him potentially thriving in another organization. Jack Hughes Truther, I think Casey's injured, but I'm higher on him than most. He showed a lot of promise last year, named an AHL All-Star this year. There's potential. Yeah, man, he's been injured, I feel like several times. Yeah, he got injured in October. Then he got injured again in late January. Yeah, and he missed the All-Star game, so then Hallinan replaced him. So has he not played since January? It's not easy to find AHL stuff. Sunrise says, Bobby Holy president, Peluso GM, Oliwa assistant GM. Oh, boy. It's an interesting lineup. Saravo, Marty should have retired in 13-14, but his ego wanted him to play another year. Played like 7 games of the Blues, and then retired. Why? Because he wanted to push it. I mean, listen, you see it with, pretty much every sport with lots of greats. They want to play for as long as someone will allow them to play. I can't fault somebody for that. The history is filled with guys who, quote unquote, hung on too long. Like, it's very rare for a lot of these greats to go out on top. It is what it is. Ego or whatever you want to call it, or drive to compete, drive to win, is part of what made them great. And they don't want to hang it up. I totally understand why it happened. I wish it didn't, but Marty wanted to play. And the thing that sucks is if he did take a backup role and stayed with the Devils, he would have hit 700. It would have been sick. Robbie's bench toss. Fitz not getting a goalie was the setup punch. Whiffing on Quinn was the windmill. Well, Robbie, you're skipping. I mean, I don't want to sit here and turn this into like a bashing session, but not getting the goalie in 23-24 to me will always be the worst one. And then if you're talking about Quinn this season, there was so many things in between those two. The 23-24 not getting a goalie and missing on Quinn this season, there was millions of things in between those two events. And I don't want to dwell on it, but John Fay Blackwood is starting to show signs that he thinks he still plays for the Devils. Meaning what? He's been struggling? I haven't been following the Avs too closely. High Stick 28, Yegorov needs to be signed before he plays his senior year, or you risk him being a UFA. Then that's not going to happen. I'm sure internally the franchise thinks that he has a good chance to be the next guy, the long-term franchise goaltender for the New Jersey Devils, and I'd love to see it. I think he's going to go back to college next year, but Jay Snow, his plays dropped off. Is that who are you talking about, Snow? Now I'm finally caught up. Whose plays dropped off? I'm talking about so many guys. Faye, I feel like I'm watching the Devils when I see Blackwood and net with how bad he has been lately. Let me take a look here. I mean, I'm looking at his last 5-game ledger here. Let me just pull this up. Well, I'll share this with the class. Boink. Bear with me 1 second while I pull this up. It's a shame Blackwood never got it together here. Early on in his career, I thought he was going to be, myself and Steve the Maniac both thought he could be the next franchise goalie. He showed flashes, but just never got that consistency down. Then he was injured, and then there's a bunch of other nonsense happened towards the end. Mac Black, 37 games this year, 22 wins, 3 shutouts, a 254 goals against, a 901 save percentage. Pretty damn good on the season. Last 5 games, March 26th, that Winnipeg got the win, 24 saves, 2 goals against, a 917. The next game against Winnipeg, gave up 3 in the loss. The next one after that, I think I saw some of that one on TV. Yeah, he gave up a 6-piece. Oof. That's brutal. 6 goals against, 19 saves, a 684. Painful. Then he gave up 3 in a loss to the Blues on April 5th. And then, what was that, last night? He got the win. 1 goal on 30 shots. I mean, it's not tragic. I thought it was going to be much worse than that based on how you kind of framed it. Traveling more likely to leave to win with the brothers. I don't know. The thing is, if he was on a team that he had like no ties or connections to, let's just say Vancouver. Well, he started in Vancouver, so that one's not a great example either. But outside of playing with his brothers, I think playing in Minnesota is like the next best thing because Billy G, obviously general manager of Team USA, and he has two of his Team USA teammates there in Brock Faber and Matt Boldy. And so obviously they're not his brothers, but in terms of, having that personal connection, especially after the Olympics, I'd imagine Minnesota is the next best option after playing with your brothers. And especially if the team's competitive and he thinks he has a chance to win there, it's going to be a very interesting scenario. Snow says Casey's value is probably nothing right now. It's probably super down. Once upon a time, I think it would have been pretty high, but I agree with the injuries now. And if you're trying to trade him, other teams will be like, well, how valuable are you going to tell me he is? Because you didn't call him up when you had the chance. Dirty 1313 Bird. I love the New Jersey Devils so much. They are my favorite team. I think they're pretty much everyone here's favorite team. There might be a couple random other fans that have migrated in here, but for the most part, the New Jersey Devils are all of our favorite teams. Jay Snow, the drafting has been absolutely awful. Completely agree with you there. That Holtz pick really hurts. Really hurts. I don't want to Snow, I forget. Where are you at with drafting with the pick? You obviously know I want no parts of drafting with our pick. Top 2 Marty backups. What are you using as criteria, Devil Heaven? Like my personal favorites. I mean, there's been a lot of notable ones over the years. If you're talking about like importance to the team, if you're just talking strictly importance to the team, no one would be more important as a Marty backup than Clemenson, because when Marty went down, I think that was the year he broke. Was that 08-09? I think in the 08-09 season, he like tore his bicep or something, and Clemmer came in and was lights out. But like my favorite ones, I mean, it's almost a cheat. It's almost cheating, really. But John Van Beesbrook would be one of my favorites. If I had to pick my favorites, when you say top 2, I don't know. If you mean like, I don't know if you mean favorite or whatever, but favorites would probably have to be Beezer and Dunham. If you're talking about like most valuable at the time, it would probably be Clemmer and maybe Hedberg. Jay Snow, Fitz love drafting defensive defensemen, and they're the easiest players to obtain. Jack Hughes, truther. Up to this point, Clayton Keller, Dahlin, Tage Thompson, Brady, and Larkin all have less team success than Nico and been in the league the same time and still stayed loyal, and it's paying off now. Stay Nico. Well, I do think we have a better chance now that Fitz is not here. But, we were supposed to be on the right path, and it's been a lot of setbacks over the past couple seasons. Now look at Wedgwoods. Let me pull up Wedgwood. The wedge. That's another thing people bash Fitz for. Like at the time, I don't think anyone was outraged by it. That's the thing I don't like when people do the hindsight stuff. Like, as I've said a million times before, there's plenty of things to complain about with Fitz, but like stuff like this, I can't in my right consciousness put on the list, because if you weren't outraged and screaming about it at the time, then how dare you do it now that the guy's on a Stanley Cup contender and looking like a beast? But Wedgwood, let's be real, was a career journeyman, essentially. Maybe journeyman's a little harsh, but he wasn't anything special. He was just like a serviceable backup. He bounced around a little bit, and he's really found his groove in his later years with Colorado, and it's crazy. All right, we got the Wedgwood. Faye wanted to see the Wedgwood. Damn, a 2 on the season, 43 games played, 29 wins, 3 shutouts, 210 goals against, and a .918 save percentage. Wow. And he is 4-1 in his last 5. It's crazy that. Oh wait, what? Oh, he must have. That's because I was going to say. All right, so the outlier statistically is that April 1st game against Vancouver. His save percentage was .833 because he gave up 1 goal on 6 shots. That was after he had to relieve Blackwood after he got lit up for 6. But solid numbers, 4-1 in his last 5. Solid numbers on the season, 210 and .918. My God. Where does that put him in the league? He's got to be. 7th. Wow, dude. What a season for Wedge. Good for him. I can't root for him to win. You guys know my thing with the Avalanche, but I lost my spot here. Yeah. Slurp one Ace. Who are you pulling for in tomorrow's national championship game? Don't you dare say Denver. I have no preference. I don't really have a rooting interest there. Rendich, I'm more concerned with Detroit versus Minnie for Quinn and the Hughes brothers. I mean, that's I'm not worried about anything. Luke is signed for what, 6 more years after this, and Jack has 3 or 4. Yeah, and Jack has 4 more years, so I'm not worried about anybody, really. This is completely in the Devils' hands. Luke is signed up for 6 more years and Jack for 4. John Fay, how do you, as the starter, let the backup for your team get more wins? Jason, of course, I would trade the pick for a ready-made player, but our draft slot is going to suck, so I don't see a trade happening. I don't think it's going to be 1-for-1, Snow. You package that thing up. You got a mid-level first-rounder. You sprinkle some other pieces on there, and you go out swinging. Richie, top Marty backups. They're the Klemmer and Johan Hedberg from a production standpoint. Yeah. Moose. Snow says, I don't remember the last draft day trade. The last one that jumps out in my mind is the Corey Schneider one. When Lou dealt the pick for Corey Schneider, and that was at the draft in New Jersey. What a scene. I remember being there, and everyone was like, whoa. And apparently Marty or Hedberg had no idea of that deal prior to it being announced on the over the arena. That's how they found out about that. I think that bothered them to some extent. It essentially marked the end of Hedberg and basically knew and signified to Marty that he basically was in a situation where there was going to be some consideration for the future beyond him, which is pretty funny because many people have talked about this in the past as well. But early in Marty's career, the Devils used a lot of draft picks on goalies. And it was like, why? JF Damfoos, Ari Ohanen, like all these guys. And we're like, why are we picking goalies when you have Marty? But I guess Lou always just wanted to have a couple guys in the mix in case something happened. One Verge watched one of those behind the scenes one draft night, and Fitz looked totally lost. I lost my confidence in him right there. I'd be curious what you're referring to. It was like a behind the scenes draft video. And it was, what was it when he was with the Devils? Jason, no, we gave up Logan Thompson too. John Fay, 918. Man, I wish we had a goalie with that save percentage. If we had a goalie with that save percentage, we're probably a playoff team. Probably. Jack Hughes, truther, what cup loss hurts more, 01 or 2012? They both hurt, but clearly for me, it's not even close. 2001 in a landslide, simply because the fact that the Devils had a 3-2 series lead. And not only did they have a 3-2 series lead, Game 6 was in New Jersey. The cup was in the building. Your boy Ace was in the building. I thought I was going to see the boys become back-to-back cup champs and skate that shiny silver object on the ice. And obviously it did not happen. And then they went out and blew Game 7 in Denver, and the rest is history. So by far for me, 01. But the 2012 one stings as well, because that's, at the tail end of Marty's career. That would have been a nice kind of final swan song. But man, I hate the Kings too. John Fay, I think it's dead even, but I think 01 probably. It's not even close to even for me. They both hurt for different reasons. But like I said, when you have a lead in the series and then Game 6 is home, it's just a different level of pain. The Jack Hughes truther, the 2 OT games at home in 2012 with Covey hitting the post and Fane missing open nets still haunt me. For sure. I was at both of those games in that finals. And I do think if the Devils were able to even get a split there, if we had just won one of those two games, I think everything could have been different, but they didn't. You know, they lost both, and it was an uphill battle from there. I mean, they clawed back a little bit. They pushed it to a game 6 before we got that horrific penalty on Bernier, which essentially ended it pretty much immediately. Sucked. Really, really sucked. Jay Snow, any big name guys we want are going to shake loose. It's definitely possible. But can a cunning GM force somebody loose? Can we twist somebody's arm? I think it's possible. That's why I just want to see aggression. We've seen a lot of inactivity from Fitz. Now I want to see aggression. I want to see whoever is in those positions make a push to try to improve the team. Swing big. Maybe a Jared McCann becomes available. Matthew E., can we send Fitz on the next Artemis mission and they can forget him on the moon? You guys are... Rendich, Game 6 was such a painful watch. I refuse to ever watch that stupid cup call with Bork. So painful. It was rammed down our throats. Mission 16W, and then there was the tie to New Jersey because the arena was exit 16W. It did become nauseating. And I liked Ray Bork when he was on the Bruins. I liked him prior to that whole thing. But after that, I was like, damn it, I hate Ray Bork now. They ruined Ray Bork for me because it was all about him chasing the cup, and pretty much every hockey fan outside of Devils fans were basically rooting for, this good guy, Ray Bork. And it was over the top. And then he finally got his cup, man. It was, it's tragic. That series will forever haunt me. If we could have been back-to-back champs and Marty would have had 4 cups to Waz 3, it would have been awesome. Richie, 2001 was extremely painful. To this day, I thought it was a fix. It wasn't with the Bork stuff. Very strange turn of events in that series. That bothered me almost as much as Mateau. Yeah, obviously Rangers has a higher significance, but we were right there, man. Coming home 3-2, having won the cup the year before. I'm not going to lie. I was convinced that whole day leading up to the game that I was going to see the cup that night, because in my mind, we were a great team. There's no way we're going to lose a potential cup clincher at home 2 years in a row. Because for those that don't know, the year before, 2000, the Devils did win the cup, but they were up 3-1 in the series. Cup in the building for Game 5. Devils with a chance to skate the cup at home in 2000, and they lost in triple overtime, a 1-0 excruciating game. Still to this day, one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. There was insane saves on both sides by the great Martin Brodeur and Ed Belfour for the Stars. Some crazy back and forth. If you ever want to watch a great historic Devils game, even though it was a loss, Game 5 of the 2000 finals was insane. But I was there for that game, hoping to see the cup, and then the Devils lost. It was like 1:15 in the morning. 1-0 triple overtime. Mike Modano tips it in front. Luckily, they went to Dallas in Game 6 and took care of business, and Jason Arnott scored in double overtime to win it. But almost seeing the cup live in 2000, and then 2001 the next year, I'm like, no way I'm going to lose 2 in a row or 2 years in a row to potentially see the cup, and it happened. And not only did I not see the cup live, but they went on to lose the series, and it was just brutal. Jay Snow, last summer was awful. No one made any moves. It was one of the most quiet summers in recent memory, if not all time, right? A lot of people were waiting for some sort of frenzy to, for some big move to kind of kick things off. And it was just like pretty much nothing across the league. It was one of the most boring summers in terms of moves. And I'm curious what this summer is going to be like. There's a lot of rumblings around a lot of guys around the league. There's a lot of interesting contract scenarios at work. And it will be interesting to see if any of these guys hit free agency, if there's any crazy, any crazy bidding wars. Do all the big name guys, does Robertson stay with Dallas? Does Tuck stay with Buffalo? Jello, it's me. Why hate the Kings? Does the 2014 finals against the Rangers and Lundqvist picture mean nothing? Obviously, I didn't want the Rangers to win that cup. So I'm thankful the Kings took care of business and won that series, but it doesn't change the fact that they took a cup, or, didn't take a cup, but they beat us for the cup at the end of Marty's career, which would have been an amazing accomplishment and for the team. I mean, that if we win that cup, I'm only sitting here complaining that our last cup win was 14 years ago versus our last cup win was 23 years ago. Renich, also Marty was robbed of the Conn Smythe in 03. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, I've talked about that millions of times. I've talked about it with former players, that were on that Devils team, and it's pretty much unanimous that everyone believes Marty was robbed. Insane numbers for the 3 shutouts in the finals alone, 7 for the entire playoff run. Oh, my God. Let me just pull this up. I mean, this is just wild. This might be the most dominant stretch of hockey we ever see at any position, in my opinion. Oh, I gotta take the okay. Marty was 16-8 in 24 games that playoff run. Goals against of 1.65 and a save percentage of 934. 7 shutouts, 3 of them in the finals. I mean, look at those numbers. I'll be right back. Got to run out 1 second. But look at those numbers and tell me that's not Conn Smythe winning numbers. It's insane. Completely insane. Wild stuff. Completely wild stuff. Every time I look at it, it's just 165 and 934. 7 of the 16 wins were shutouts and 3 in the finals. This is almost as big of a crime as Stan Fisher not being in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Chris says, to come back from that OT loss, what character? Yeah, Arnott game-winning goal. We got Arnie enshrined in the office studio forever. Double overtime. What a game. Chris says, when the Rangers won the cup, I was 10 years old. I didn't understand rivalries yet since I was a new fan, so I rooted for NJ in 95. I didn't know it wasn't okay. I rooted for them against Dallas, too. When did you start to hate them, Chris? I'm curious. So you were like the Devils were your backup team for a little bit there. Jello, it's me just joking, and I hope our team start looking better soon. I wonder if they'll start looking better at the same time, and maybe we could get a rematch. Wait, I'm lost. Jello, what team are you a fan of, Jello? Chris, I'll never forget 2012. The save was Brodeur's heel on Gabrick as he missed the diving poke check. The back of his leg went up and his heel stopped. It changed the series. The Scorpion save was completely insane. I mean, well, we're going down memory lane already, hey? Shout out to all the old timers. We always go down the we always go the nostalgic route. Let me just take this off. For those that aren't aware, you have to look this up. You have to see the video on YouTube. But there's Marty missing with the poke check. The puck's going up from Gaborik. And Marty throws that back leg up. Bang, and then gets it. What a save. One of the best of his career, obviously. Eastern Conference Finals. What a series before Henrique gets over. What a great series. One of the... Is that the best? I mean, it's right up there. If it's not the best moment in Prudential Center for Henrique, it's over. Probably is number one, I guess. And that Game 5 2012 Cup Final win has to be up there too. But what a time. What a great rivalry. Yeah, the Scorpion. It's the same he must go to confession for. John Fay says, do you need to go 24-0-0-0 to win the Conn Smythe? Yeah, it's insane. They wanted to give it to Jaguar. People hated the Devils. Rendich, Henrique, it's over. Call by Doc is amazing. Chris, I don't think I ever hated New Jersey. Islanders I didn't like. It's going to be interesting to see if the Islanders find a way in. Jack Hughes Truther says, were you around in 88? Would love to hear stories about experiencing that run for the first time. I was not. I was very young. I am a fan since 94. I will say, if you do want to hear some good stories about it, I did an interview with Don LaGreca at the beginning of the season, and he talked about it because I like hearing those stories from the people that experienced it as well before my fandom, and I was young, too young. But he talks about it. I'll drop the link in the chat. At some point in that interview, he tells some good 1988 stories. Devil Heaven, back on the backups. He's going Clemmer, I guess Wedgwood, Hedberg. Chris, I didn't grow up around Devils fans, so there wasn't anyone in school to hate. Plenty of Islanders fans in Queens. I grew up surrounded by Ranger fans. So many Ranger fans, and it obviously led to the, aside from the rivalry itself, when you deal with them growing up, and especially after 1994, it just makes you hate them so much. Oh, it's me, the Kings. Okay, I was joking in my previous when I said, why hate the Kings? We gave you a legendary, the future's got to be bright for our team. The future is so bright, I got to protect my retinas, Jello. The future is so bright, and especially if Shani and Jamie Langenbrunner get here. Richie, Dano gave me 2 ticks to a game in 1983. I didn't follow hockey at the time. He gave me and my buddy a stick wave when he saw us during warm-ups. Fan ever since. That's a great story, Richie. Where did you see him again? I forget. I think you told me, but I can't remember. My memory's shot now. Samuel says, so damn tired of looking back. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? And guess what, Samuel? That's why I'm hoping this front office can bring this team back to respectability so that we no longer have to talk about the glory years and the good old days and yada, yada, and we can live in competitive times once again. Live in competitive times once again and hopefully see another Stanley Cup in New Jersey. I just want to see one more before I croak. That's all I'm hoping for. That is all I am hoping for. Is that too much to ask? DK Jersey Devil, are you glad the Jersey is being retired after Sunday? They should go back to a red and green third jersey. I'm over the green. I like black. It's one of our primary colors now, forever. But I would like to see a primarily black jersey. And I also would like to see the iconic Devils logo as the main crest. The jersey thing was okay. I never really loved it. I did hate it less over time, but I know. I would like a black jersey. Yo, Holmes just got here. Don't get me started on the GS winning like that. Like Ace, I was there and livid. To this day, livid. What an injustice. Oh, the Conn Smythe? You talking about the Conn Smythe? Is that supposed to be CS? Yeah, Ari Ohanen. What a draft pick. Samuel says, was a Red Wings fan until 1982, then the move. Chris, they should update the stadium series, the stadium jersey, just make it black. Yeah, my two top options for the New Devils alternate jersey is the exact inverse of the stadium series jersey and the old school starter jersey. One or a slightly modified version of the old school starter jersey. Now there are some let me throw this up here real quick. There are some slight tweaks and modifications that I wouldn't mind seeing. Where the hell? I'm also curious to see if the whole jersey script logo is used for anything going forward or if it's like completely done. It will be interesting to see. There's a lot of ways they could go with this, but I do think, like we've talked about forever, just the exact inverse of the stadium series jersey would be a home run. And the old school jersey, that starter sold in the 90s with a couple small tweaks would be sweet. But for those, I'm going to take some of you guys way back right now. Who remembers this? When we're talking about jerseys, who remembers this phenomenal logo? Boom. Who remembers that? The Devil's Den, the Devil Head logo. Dude, how sick would that look as a shoulder patch on a jersey? That would be phenomenal. Always liked this logo. Back in the day, I think it was on a couple things, but no jerseys to my recollection. It was more like there was like pillows and some other stuff. But I always thought this would be a really sick shoulder patch or something of some kind. And then, the cousin of this logo is the full-blown skating devil. That would be sick as a patch as well. I don't know that they'll ever bring anything back with these things. But these, I remember as a kid just thinking they were so ferocious and was like, damn, these would be so nice on a jersey. The old school starter jersey with one of these on the shoulder patches would be just stellar. Absolutely stellar. Richie at a bar, Dano, could he drink? We all knew the guts it took for him later on to tell Doc McMullen he had a problem, and Doc got him help and no pay suspension. So you met Dano at a bar and he gave you tickets and made you a lifelong fan. It's crazy. What a story. Yo, Holmes, we all know the OG starter is the pinnacle. Absolutely. Devil Heaven grew up with the Baby Devs farm system, Utica Devs, Albany River Rats, Lowell, Binghamton, back to Utica. I always wish they played closer. I would definitely go to AHL games if they played like close to where the NHL team plays, but that hasn't been the case ever, really. Ivan, I heard a rumor that in 2003 there were multiple options for the Devils to win the Conn Smythe, so that's the reason why Devil didn't win it. Heard Needs was one of them. Not sure how believable it is. I mean, I could see but when Marty's numbers were that just out of this world, I mean, he definitely should have just, he should have gotten it. There's no excuse for me. Wasted Youth Caper, where's your beer, Ace? I got the iced coffee going. I am partying tomorrow night with a bunch of Habs fans here in New Waterford, Cape Breton. I'll be given the gears that the Devils are out. Yeah, should I wear red shades? You got to protect your eyes from this bright future. It's unfortunate that we're out, but what are Habs fans going to say? They haven't been relevant in forever. The Corey Schwab days. Wow. John Fay, that'd be a great logo on a jersey. It'd be cool if they sold it as a novelty. I wouldn't probably want it as like an on-ice jersey that they wear, but if they did like a novelty jersey like the starter one was, it'd be a cool novelty jersey. Yo, Holmes, love to see improvement of the normal jersey. Add the bottom stripe. We all want that stripe. Make a legit clean black third. Also dump the lame goal song. Upgrade is even. They seem to really like that goal song. Grew up in the 80s NHL. Very nice, Devil Heaven. Collect records is a crime that the full-on skating devil isn't at least on a shirt. What a logo. I mean, isn't that not like, it's pretty sick. I loved it when I first saw it as a kid, 30 whatever years later. And every time I look at it now, I'm still like, this is just an amazing logo. It really is just so amazing. It's so merch friendly. Yeah, T-shirts, hats, whatever. Sick. Sick logo. Devil Heaven says Ray is a class act. Yeah, it doesn't make me feel any better, though. Richie, I know he wears number 7, but would love to see Brady and NJ in number 77. He would just look even tougher. I'll forever now associate 77. I mean, a lot of people will with Ray Bork, and I just don't want any reminders of that guy. Going back to the Avalanche conversation we just had a couple minutes ago. Devil Heaven, all the years the Bruins Cup, well-deserved for Ray. Jack Hughes, truther, I wish Devils fans had half the passion that Habs fans do. I mean, there's no comparison, though. I mean, I get it, but hockey is religion in Canada. The Montreal Canadiens are an institution. Like, you really can't compare. The closest thing, I guess, you have to that is, like, Dallas Cowboys and New York Yankees. Like, that's like the level of team that we're talking about. I don't know that the Devils will ever ascend to those heights, but the Montreal Canadiens certainly have a very, very passionate fan base. And a lot of us saw it firsthand and experienced it Saturday night when, I guess the story was, multiple busloads took a trip down, and they were very loud even from warm-ups. John Face to sell it as a hat or a patch or something. It'd be sick. Yo, Holmes, new GM needs to call Ottawa and ask Brady for Nico. What's up? I would love to keep Nico and still get Brady. I feel like there's a path for that to happen. I'm the first to say it's not very likely, obviously, but there are pieces in the chamber that you could theoretically swing a deal for Brady without dealing Nico. Ducks goalie in 03, come on, man. Jean-Sebastien Giguère. And I guess I have to do this too now that you brought it up. For those that may have never seen it before. Oh, these are crappy versions. Some of you know exactly what's coming. I can't find a good version of it, though. I mean, this is... I get mad every time I see this. Every single time. The moments after the Devils won the 2003 Stanley Cup, Jean-Sebastien Giguère gets awarded the Conn Smythe. The entire arena boos. I'm pretty sure he was crying. Maybe this is after he composed himself. I forget. I could have sworn there was photos where you could actually see the tears in his eyes. And listen, he had a great playoff, but he didn't have a better playoff than Marty. And that is when the entire arena, a chorus of boos. And as this was announced, Marty was skating around the ice, gesturing for the cup like this. And the whole crowd broke into Marty's better. Marty's better. What a moment. What a moment. One of the best nights of my life, for sure. I mean, that was just completely insane. Completely insane. Jason says, I could care less about the Habs fans. I just want the Devils to be a good hockey team. Yeah. Playoffs every year. Perennial contender. DK Jersey Devil agree. Inverse of the Stadium Series jersey would be sweet. Devils need a shoulder patch on their jerseys. Yeah, I just showed a couple logos I think would be sick. Jay Snow, I'm so sick of watching this soft hockey. Yeah, I think we all are. Yo, Holmes, Nico, I am a Devil for now guy. May need to be traded, just thinking of options. It's certainly an option, and it's going to be it's easily, in my opinion, the single biggest agenda on the offseason docket. What happens with Nico Hischier? Clearly the number one thing. You're either re-signing him or you're shipping him. Jay Snow said, what happened to this once proud organization? We've crumbled. We've fallen so far. But guess what, Snow? I know you might not be on board, Snow, but I do believe these men in tandem, these distinguished gentlemen, can bring this franchise back from the ashes to be a respectable NHL team. We just need to start seeing these announcements. DK Jersey Devil would hate to lose Nico, solid two-way player, and seems like a good guy who cares. Yeah, I think he does. And I think that's part of the reason why he may not want to be here. Now, obviously, he may feel differently now that Fitz is no longer here. But these are all things we're going to have to wait and see how they go in the offseason. Yeah, booed out of the building. John Fay, because it was true, he was in fact better and also got better. Snow says at least McDavid skated off the ice when he won his Conn Smythe. He was furious. Didn't he originally not want to go out and get it? And they like forced him to? I think he didn't even want to go get it. I really despise giving the Conn Smythe to a guy on the losing team. Gregory Prez, Kachuk for Dougie, Shimo Nemitz, Haminaho, 2026 first rounder and 2027 second rounder. Interesting. I don't know if that gets it done, but it I would imagine it has to be close. A first, a second. I mean, I don't think they would want Dougie, though. But I think you're kind of in the realm in terms of overall value that could get there. I don't know. I don't think they'd want Dougie. But we certainly have the pieces. And then you also talk about, potentially a guy like Mercer. Not that's not to say I want him out of here or anything like that. You guys know how glowingly I talk about Mercer all the time. But another kind of bullet you have at your disposal. Yo, Holmes, Marty set the all-time playoff record for most shutouts in a single playoff year while also having 3 shutouts in the finals, including Game 7. Doesn't win MVP to the loser goalie. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. Completely insane. With I already dumped it off the screen. It was like a 161 goals against. Insane. I thought McDavid did eventually. They forced him. Yo, Holmes, McDavid was in the locker room and they called him back down the tunnel. Yeah. All right, guys. I don't think I have anything else. I got some. I've been on here for a while. I got some things to do. We're just waiting for this news, folks. Waiting for the news. The boys back in action tomorrow. I believe it will be a. Did Keefe say it was a Nico Daws start? I think it was confirmed. 5 o'clock. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of like the 5 o'clock games. I don't know how I'd feel about it all the time, but 5 o'clock on a weekend, I like that. We'll get started on here around 8. All right, guys, that's it. Appreciate you all for coming out. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. Hit that like button. If you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. What are we waiting for, folks? Hit that subscribe button. We'll be back talking all things New Jersey Devils all the time. Just waiting on the news. Devils in Detroit tomorrow. Be back for the post game. And that's it, friends. You enjoy your Friday night. Back tomorrow. Hopefully we see something positive from Nico Daws and a good team performance down the stretch here. And that's it. That's it. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go.